Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to give you my first impression on Tiara. To do that, we're going to use the YouTube post I created earlier today, and when needed I'm going to add additional information. I started with my general thoughts on the unit, and I would say I was maybe a bit too strict here, because Tiara is not all that bad. I think she's underwhelming. I think she should have been way better, and I don't recommend pulling for her in general. So yes, she's disappointing, but she's not a completely worthless unit. Like if you pull for her, you can still use her. She won't be comfortable. She will have a lot of matchups where she struggles, and she won't really provide a ton of value, but like she's not worthless. Okay. So I hope what I wrote here didn't come across as Tiara is worthless. She is not. She can work even at high deficit. It's just not a really like versatile pick, let's say. So let's first start by reading kind of what I wrote, and I will expand a bit more on those points. As I said, Tiara is a disappointing release, mainly because I don't know why, but every time there is a unit that is super hyped up, that a lot of people want, that is highly anticipated, they always under deliver with the kit. And I don't know why that is the case. Probably because they think the unit will sell anyway, even if it's slightly underpowered, because it's a famous unit. I don't know what their thought process is, but I really don't like it. And I think Tiara should have been, or would have deserved to be around the power level of Lopobia Rashut. That was probably a bit too much, but even a tiny bit less would have been fine by me. But she's definitely not even close. I don't really like what Tiara is providing. I think she's not providing enough. And also, what she's supposed to be good at has a lot of issues. So, here I said that she's lacking in almost every possible way. This is probably an exaggeration. But still, I would say DPS wise, she has issues. Survivability wise, she has issues. And also, utility wise, she doesn't do a ton, which is extremely disappointing for me. So let's go point by point. The first point is the DPS. I said it is not up to par with other recent releases, which is definitely true, but I will also say she can push high deficits if you give her the right team. So that's a non-issue, kind of. The thing is that this damage is slow and inconsistent. Why that is the case? Because for some reasons, she does not prioritize the special move even when she has full energy. One time during the live stream, I had her cast 7 active skills while she was at full energy. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Just use the special move. Because all of her damage is just on the special move. Her active skills deal nothing. And having her use active skills back to back to back 7 times before she even uses the special move, that was upsetting me like crazy. It was so stupid to see. And that is the case because she can go to very low cooldown on the active skills, and somehow the special move is not prioritized over the active skills, even when you are at full energy. And I really hate that part because, again, the damage is inconsistent, and for every skill, she has a 2-second channel time, which means if we have to wait for her to use the active skill 4 times before she uses the special move, that means you have to wait 8 seconds, and then the 2 seconds from the special move channel time before she actually deals some damage and decreases the enemy energy, because the energy decrease is on the special move. And that was extremely upsetting. That makes her damage inconsistent, because at times she uses 2 special moves back to back, other times she uses 1 and then 5, 6, 7 active skills, and then she uses the second. That was super annoying. I don't like it. If they just prioritized the special move, she would have been a lot better as a DPS. Right now, too inconsistent and will just, again, delay you a lot of times. Crazy annoying. Second issue is her survivability in the early phase of the battle, and that is because she walks immediately instead of writing. If she stood still and started using an active skill at the beginning of the battle, then she could have been way, way better. But right now, she's going to start by walking, and then she starts writing, which is annoying because if you run Barry, you're going to have the 2-second invincibility coming from it. Basically, it's going to proc immediately. Then she's going to write for 2 seconds, but before the 2 seconds are over, she's going to be dead because the invisibility from her passive procs once she finishes writing. And that is so stupid. So compatibility with Barry is still there, but you need something else. So super annoying. I really hate that. If she started by writing, then Barry would have been perfect, great pick, and her own survivability would have been way, way better. But like this, it's really annoying. If they made these two changes, so prioritize the special move and have her start with an active skill, again, she could have been a way, way better unit. Right now, too inconsistent as it is. Also, I mentioned that her utility is limited because she only has a buff removal that is on an active skill, which is not a big problem because she's going to use the active skill more than the special move. And she has the energy decrease on the special move. The special move will need some grouping because the area is not that big. And if you want to apply the energy decrease consistently, you will need grouping. But even then, you might be in a scenario where she doesn't use it for 10 seconds and the enemies will gain energy and will destroy you. So also the energy decrease is too inconsistent to be relied on. So for all those reasons, Tiara is going to work in some scenarios. You will see a lot of people doing great stuff with Tiara, but then other times she's going to underperform. It's too RNG. I don't really like it. And let me see if I wrote anything else other than this. Yeah, I wanted to add one thing about this durability. A unit that basically does the same thing would be Princess of the Heart. She has the 2-second evasion after she uses a skill. She has no channeling on the skill. So basically the uptime on her immortality or perma evasion is the same. And I would say they are very similar. But of the two, Princess of the Heart is at the very least one step above Tiara because the active skill cooldown increase is way more important than the inconsistent energy decrease that Tiara offers and also the buff removal. And I would say damage-wise, all of the skills that Princess of the Heart uses deal damage compared to Tiara that only relies on the special move. So of the two, I would say Princess is a bit more consistent, but still not really a one-on-one comparison. And then I also added here that she needs too many things to be a valid and consistent main DPS, and she struggles in a lot of matchups, as I said before. And the best use is likely as a sub DPS. I agree with that, I think, because using her as a main DPS, she really needs too much. Using her for her stall tanking potential, it's probably a bit better, and also for the occasional burst of damage from the special move. But even then, the fact that she doesn't provide a lot of utility is a bit annoying. If the enemies are going to jump on your backline, she has no ways of protecting your team. So, I mean, can work, but at the same time, not really the best pick in most scenarios. So yeah, that's more or less it for the general overview. Now let's look at the pros and cons. The pros is that she's basically unkillable after you fully stack her, I would say, Revolution 4, which is this one. So once her active skill cooldown is basically 0, she's going to keep on chaining it. She will always be invincible, and that's it. So ability-wise, once you get past the initial stage of the fight, she is perfectly fine. The energy decrease, I only considered it decent for the reasons I said before. You need grouping for it, and she won't really spam the special move that frequently, so it's a bit unreliable, so it's only decent. Then we have the damage that is quite good. If you have full stacks of the passive, so the 1200% attack increase and the special move pierce increase, etc. If you have all of that, the damage is nice, but you will need some defense decrease in your team. Otherwise, some units are basically unkillable for her, so that's quite annoying. And then for cons, we have quite a few because I listed all the requirements that she has. We have grouping, again, super important because her damage is AoE and the AoE is not that big, so you want consistent grouping. Likely E-Rang is your best pick. Then we have some early survivability requirements, so you need her to be protected either by using Albelda or Hiwa or whatever kind of support you have access to protect her in the early stages of the fight. She also needs HP recovery block or some enemies she cannot kill, and she needs defense decrease for the same reason. If you have enemies like Tank Hats, Varagarv, or Rachel, Icarus, those kind of units, she will basically never kill those, and that's quite annoying. And the other cons that I wrote is what I mentioned before, so she will often use the active skills instead of the special move, even when she has full energy. That's super upsetting. Now, in terms of dupes, I would say zero dupes is kind of okay, but you don't have access to Revolution 4, which is what is going to decrease your active skill cooldown, which in terms of damage is a bit better because you can use your special move, but you won't get the energy steal unless you have Revolution 5. So it's still annoying. Like if we could keep the high cooldown on the active skills, but while still having the energy steal, that would be great, but we don't. So zero dupe ability is going to be a bit off, but still okay. You cannot use her as a stall tank because she still needs the early protection, but it's still somewhat acceptable. You could use her, and she has the same energy decrease at zero dupes as she has at like full investment. And the same thing for the buff removal. She has that already at zero dupes. So for those, it's okay. I probably wouldn't bother using her. She's really not that worth it. Then we have 3 red. I would say is basically the same, just a minor damage increase. Not even that massive. I mean, it's more damage, but you won't really notice that. Then we have orange 4. That is a good power spike for the Revolution 4 because of the extra survivability thanks to the active skill cooldown reduction and the extra damage thanks to the special move pierce. So overall, I would say it is a decent power spike. You don't need the energy from Rainbow 5 necessarily. And also you don't need the energy steal because most of the times you're still going to spam this skill here that is going to give you enough energy. It gives you 100% of your energy. So you can always use this special move anyway. And even if you have the energy, it doesn't matter because she's going to use the active skills. So kind of disappointing. I would say Orange 4 is almost the same as maxed out. But yeah, very, very good. And Rainbow 5 is going to give her a lot more energy because of the energy steal, but again, that could work at times, but most of the times probably it won't. So that's more or less it in terms of dupes. I don't know why every time I click she just starts rotating a lot, okay? Then we have the talk about ignition weapons. Here we have a few options. The one I'm running is Barry because of that initial survivability. I don't want to rely too much on teammates. And this one was okay if you're lucky enough and you have other distractions in the team, like an Anna potentially, or a Beta, or an Endorsi, the purple one, and you place her in the back, then those units are going to reach the enemy team a lot sooner. Then Tiara might have a bit more time to get closer, start channeling, and then if Barry procs, you can get at least the first skill off and get the 4-second invincibility from the passive. So overall, I prefer Barry over all the other options. But if you are set on using a support and can keep her alive, like, I don't know, Sharon, Mamanak, or if you want to go with Hiwa, Albelda, whatever, you could then switch to a different option, like Mago. That would be the biggest boost of damage that you can get because of the 20% defense ignore. That can be removed at the moment. We'll see after the buff Mago. But for now, if you're facing enemies with buff removals, it could be annoying because she doesn't spam the energy decrease that often. So getting to max stacks might not be consistent if you have a buff removal against you. But we'll see in the future. I'm hoping Mago at least gets the unremoval on that. Then we have Runda and Doris as potential options, especially Runda, because after you use a skill, you are basically invincible for 4 seconds. So the shield is going to last and you're going to get more energy, which you don't necessarily need. So at the same time, Runda wouldn't be too much for her, but more for the teammates. So it's a potential option, but again, you would need to protect her in the initial stage of the fight. Then we have Doris, basically the same thing, is going to be more for the allies, because you're not going to break the barrier if you give the shield to Tiara, because she's going to be invincible. She's going to break the first one for the most part, but not really any after that. So it's okay, but not that necessary. It's going to be mostly if you want to give additional value to your team. Then we also have Sela as an option, because Sela is going to give you resistances, and she has a 90% damage taken decrease while writing. So in this case, it would just be like you have to protect her for the very first second or just relying on distraction. Then as soon as she starts writing, she should be basically unkillable because 90% damage taken reduction on a full resistance build is not bad at all. Still not the best, so she could still die if her deficit is higher than, let's say, 450, likely, but it could be an option. So if you are starting out, you somehow pulled for Tiara, you want to use her, and your deficit is lower than 300, 350, I would say Sela is a solid pick. She could still die in the first second of the fight, so you need to make sure she doesn't get attacked there. But as soon as she starts writing, she should be fine. She also gains a lot of defense here from the passive. So even when she's not writing, once she's fully stacked, she's going to be quite tanky anyway. So keep that in mind, it could be interesting. And then in terms of stats, I would say slot 4, you go for crit damage, and slot 5, you go for magic pierce. You don't really need to go affected or effect resistance because for effect resistance, she is immune to status effects, and for debuffs, we don't care too much. And then when she's invincible, you cannot apply anything on her, so it doesn't really matter. If you go affected, it's kind of wasted because she has it as a subnotive revolution, and even then, she doesn't have a lot of stuff that she wants to hit, except for the crowd controls. She has a 5-second knockback and a 5-second airborne, so not the worst, but all the other effects are not really relying on affected, so kind of pointless as well. I'll just go pure damage and you're fine. If you are in the situation I mentioned before, so below 300 deficit, you could attempt to go full resistances. It would be tricky without Sela, but it's possible, so up to you. And in the sum stats, you can just go for magic pierce, crit damage, and accuracy. That's fine, that's all. And then in terms of revolution subnodes, you can go for swiftness, that is going to be quite important. Crit rate, to be honest, kind of depends, because if you have the revolution 5, then she's always going to crit with the special move, and the special move is all her damage. So you don't need to go crit rate, to be honest. I will probably remove it from the text here, because again, you really don't need that. Crit damage is going to be good, attack is going to be good, special move pierce is going to be good, and also max cooldown reduction. I need to double check first if it makes a lot of sense to go for it, because if it is too low and you actually have 0 cooldown of the active skills, then she's going to only use those, or mostly use those, and that is something we want to avoid. So we'll see. Might be better to probably not even level it up. I will try her a bit more without it, and then we'll see. But yeah, definitely as a mage and as an attack scaling DPS unit, she needs a bit of investment, so be prepared for that. Now, in terms of expected rank, I wrote ranker, but it could be high ranker arrow down, could be S rank, really kind of depends on how the tests go also in hard mode that I'm going to do shortly. I tried her a bit, wasn't too happy about her, but we'll see. Maybe I will find some interesting combos, or maybe some other people will find some interesting combos, and I will change my opinion on her, but for now, seems unlikely. I would say high ranker or down would be fair, but I'm more inclined to give her a ranker, to be honest. So that's it for the expected rank. In terms of should you pull, my opinion would be no, because the value she adds to most accounts is going to be basically non-existent. She has some overlapping effects with other units, like the energy decrease is already present on a Zero Dupes Cha, for example, which does a way better job at decreasing the energy. And we also have the buff removal, which some of the units you need to play with her if you want some of these effects will have buff removal already, so it's kind of already overlapping. I don't know, not a big fan. Like the stuff she provides is not that great. The units that you need to make her work will inevitably also make the other teams worse. So, like yet another reason not to go for Tiara. And what else? Yeah, here I also mentioned that in general, especially on free-to-play accounts, we want to pull for units that will add value to the account and not units that mess things around. Meaning, we want a unit that is going to add value to multiple teams that we're running or to multiple DPS units or whatever, and not units that will need support that is already being used in another team, I don't know, another frontline unit that is used in another team, or a sub DPS that is used in another team. Like, we don't want to remove stuff for a unit to function. And Tiara is a bit in this category. So she's not really going to add value to existing teams. She kind of wants a team around her a bit, and that's not that great. I would say as a sub DPS in some scenarios, she was fine, but almost always there is a better option. So I'm disappointed. I'm really but okay, fine. So guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Tiara, if you agree or not with what I said, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.